Welcome back, Leominsterites. It's our December episode, and I'm super thrilled to be joined with two people that I really respect and admire and love working with. Leominster City Councilor Gail Feckley, who is our Ward 1 City Councilor, and we're going to be joined after the break with State Representative John Zlotnick, who's from Gardner. So, Gail, City Councilor, I'm super thrilled to have you on. We've been trying for a couple of months now, so I'm thrilled to finally have you.
Thank you.
And so you've seen a couple of the episodes. It's kind of a way for folks in Leominster to get to know their elected leaders and feel a little more comfortable reaching out if they have a problem or if they need some assistance. And just wondering what made you want to run for City Council and get involved with Leominster politics.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much, Natalie, for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here. So I think it goes back to my family was always very interested in politics. My parents followed it very, very closely. And so I always kind of thought it would be an interesting thing to, delve into. But having a young family, and continuing on my education as a mature adult, I just never had the time. So then as my time freed up a little bit after I received my master's degree, I got involved with the North Leominster Little League. Okay. And I was involved with their board of directors, and I actually became president, and I served as president for several years. So doing that, you start meeting quite a few people in your community that you never had the opportunity to meet before. And also you get to know some of the city councilors and the mayor because we invited him to several events. And so you start getting to know a little bit more about how your community runs. And so then a few people mentioned to me that they thought that I would be good in politics. And so 2011, I saw that there might have been an opportunity for a race, and I jumped in. And of course, being a total, neophyte as far as that kind of thing is concerned, we had a halfway decent campaign. I had some people that, supported me, but we were green, and we didn't do too bad, but it was a very good experience. So then again in 2013, having learned and talked to people and gotten a few extra tips on how to run a campaign, we jumped in again. And now I think it was a little bit more of a mature campaign. We had more information, and I had more people, working with me, and we did a lot of door knocking. A lot of door knocking.
You know how much that meant for me.
Yes, it did. And we did a lot of, face-to-face. I discovered streets in Leominster that I never knew existed. I met so many wonderful people and realized that there was quite a few things that I thought that I could help them out with. And I just really enjoyed being a part of the community with, with the North Leominster Little League, and I thought that I would be able to even be a better part of the community by being a city councilor. And we in 2013, we succeeded, and I won the election and took the seat on the council. And I've had a wonderful time since then. The other city councilors have been wonderful mentors to me. I ran unopposed in the next two elections, and I've
That's always nice.
Well, it is nice. Although a campaign is fun, and it's nice to be able to meet your constituency. It's nice, and it's also that I've received mounting support in each election, which I appreciate very much. So.
No, but I love that story because we've seen that with a couple of other Leominster electeds. Cody Case didn't win his first race and came back.
Yes.
Frank Ardinger just got onto the city council. And I hope that is encouraging we had a lot of really new people run in Nate Fontaine in Ward 2 in the special and Braden Robbins to the city council, that they don't give up, that they continue to figure out how do I connect better with voters and how do I be a better campaigner.
And people get to know who you are.
Right.
And I think we saw a lot of people that would come to the door and say, "Oh, I remember you from the last time." And I think they understand that now you really are interested. This is something that you really, have, in your heart that you want to serve the community. So, yeah, we had a lot of fun. My sister and I did a lot of the campaigning in 2013, and we walked around with the Gail Feckley Ward 1 counselor shirts in the pouring rain sometimes. And in fact, I have a woman every time I see her, and I see her quite often, and she says, I remember you came to my door and you were soaking wet, and that's why I voted for you. So, you know, you never know.
That's so great. My campaign was a family affair, and I think it like brought us closer than we
Yep.
ever thought we possibly could
Yep.
be. And so now that you've been on the city council for a while, what's something surprising about the job that you didn't expect?
The paper. Oh, there's so much paper. It's like they kill trees, like unbelievable. A lot of reading, a lot of, I mean, I guess I thought that was going to happen, but, you know, just having to learn so much about municipalities and how
Right.
they work, laws, you know, rules of order and that kind of thing. Being on different subcommittees, certainly, you know, now you have to learn different, you know, I had to learn about ordinances and, you know, things that you never really, I mean, you knew that they existed, but you never really
Right.
were responsible for having to, you know, delve into that kind of thing. And I think that also working with your constituency, you know, realizing how important it is to people that you're there for them.
Right.
You know, that's a good part. You know, when people call you up and they have a problem, and sometimes it's a big problem, sometimes it's a small problem, and being able to help them out, or at least, you
Help
know,
them navigate
have
steer
them
them in the right
navigate through
direction.
it. And it's
Yeah.
important to them. You know, it might not be the biggest thing in the world, but it's important to them. So I think that, you know, I knew that I was going to be able to help people with that, but the success of being able to do it is very gratifying.
Yeah, that's so great. And is there anything you're working on in the city council or in your capacity as city councilor that you're excited about?
Well, I think next year we're going to be delving into the recreational marijuana situation. So we're going to be addressing that because deadlines are coming up. So that's
Right.
going to be interesting. Certainly, we're going to have to be looking into a lot of the rules and regulations and working with state, you know, to
I was
make
gonna say, I
sure
think
that
we'll be
everything.
collaborating a lot
We
more
will.
than
I'm
we
looking
normally
forward
do.
to that. I think that, you know, we'll do it in a very respectful and responsible way. So I'm interested in working on that. I'm also interested in continuing on with hopefully the subcommittee on ordinances. We passed, Sue Shalafo-Zephyr was the chair, and then Mark Bedanza and I were on the committee. And we were able to pass some ordinances that would be very important to people's everyday lives. You know, a noise ordinance, improved noise ordinance, which is very important to people.
I hear about that from
Yep.
constituents, and
Yep.
I'm constantly referring people like, actually, your city councilors would be really, really helpful with that.
Right, and we did get the, you know, upgraded ordinance on the books. And also, we were able to pass an ordinance regarding notification of abutters if any changes are going to be happening within their zones.
Okay.
Which is also very important, too, that
Yeah,
people know. You know, I
absolutely.
guess there was nothing, you know, there was a situation at one point about a year or so ago. A lot of abutters came and said, we had no idea this was happening. So we worked on that. So I'm excited to work on a few other things as far as ordinances, maybe something about construction and some of the noise that isn't covered under the noise ordinance. I have heard a couple of complaints about that, so I'm going to be working with the committee on that.
Sure. And are there any things that you think are unique to Ward 1, like compared to working with your colleagues that are in different parts of the city?
I think that Ward 1 is unique about traffic. Unique about
Absolutely.
Route 13 in particular, which has been a problem since I moved there in 1978. The traffic can be phenomenal. Saturday morning, you need to leave your house 2 hours before you need to get downtown. I mean, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's, you know, it's ridiculous. So I'm excited that we're going to have the Mass DOT project starting. I went to the hearing. They had the public hearing at City Hall last
I was
week.
there too.
Right. And they weren't 100% clear on when they were going to start, but they did say that the construction was going to last between 18 and 24 months. And I did ask them, what are you going to do about getting people out of North Leominster during that time? Because even without construction, we have enough trouble.
Right.
So they did, you know, tell us that they were going to be very mindful of that, and they were going to be having extra police details out and
Okay.
everything. So I'm looking forward to that being done, because even though it is going to be a little bit of an inconvenience for a while,
It'll be
the
worth
end
it.
result will be worth it. It's going to be from Prospect to Hawes Street. It's
There's
going to make
extra lanes going to be put in. It's
extra
going to make it a lot
lanes.
easier for folks who are turning to not
Yep.
be holding traffic back.
Yeah.
I'm
just
really
the light
hopeful.
going left onto Prospect Street is going to change people's lives in the morning.
Absolutely.
So I'm very excited about that, and I'm excited with working with my constituency to make sure that people can, access that road and get out, to get where they need to be. So I'm excited about that.
And I was excited to see how many people showed up to that hearing. It was a
Yes.
very packed hearing, which is
Yes.
good because I've been to other Mass DOT hearings and
Yep.
they have not been as well attended, but it might also
Yeah.
just show how much of a pain in the butt
Well,
this
it is.
traffic is for folks.
And they asked very relevant questions, and they had very relevant concerns, so I hope that they took them into consideration, because it's important, you're kind of stuck there. And like I said at the meeting, we get a lot of traffic from southern New Hampshire too coming down there. So
Absolutely.
we need to make sure that we can get people, onto the highway or wherever they're going to be going. So like I said, that's probably going to be one of my big, goals for my next 2 years.
And it's holiday season. Christmas
It
is
is.
coming up. Do you have anything fun planned?
Well, actually, I'm leaving today. I'm going very shortly after I leave here. I have to go home and grab my stuff and off to Providence Airport, and I'm going to visit my family in Boynton Beach, Florida. I have
Very jealous.
yes.
I need some warm weather right
Yeah,
now.
although it's cold down there.
Is it cold?
Yeah, because they're getting that snow is coming from
Oh,
Texas,
right.
and I guess it's skirting them. So tomorrow, I think it's only going to be 60 degrees.
Wow.
But I'm not going down there to go swimming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going down there to see my family. And my son and his wife just bought a new house, and
Oh,
they have a big,
awesome.
huge Christmas tree. And my granddaughter Liliana is 7, and so she's
That's such a
looking
fun
forward to
age.
seeing Grandma Gail. And
Yeah.
so Grandma Gail's taking her sleigh
Yeah,
down to
tonight
Florida.
is my annual tradition with my 12-year-old cousin.
Oh, nice.
We've for 5 years now. We go see the Nutcracker. So we get all dressed up, we go to dinner, and it's just me and her. And we go
Wonderful.
and see the Nutcracker. And she was sick last year, so I'm really, really thrilled that we get to do this
That's
again
great.
this year.
Yeah, well, I'm jealous you're going to see the Nutcracker, because that's one of my
Oh my God,
favorites.
it's so much fun. It's just like
Yeah.
every time I see it, it's really exciting. And also to see her, like even as she's gotten older, we started when she was like 6 or 7. She's still really excited about it. And it makes me happy as she's like hitting almost teenage years.
Yeah.
She still gets really, really excited about going to see the Nutcracker with me.
It's a great tradition, great
Yeah.
family tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, well, thank you so much for coming on the
Oh,
show.
thank
It
you
was
for
great
having me.
chatting with you, and have a safe flight.
Okay.
I hope there's not a whole lot of traffic on your way down to Providence.
I don't think,
It's
not this
usually-
time of day, yeah.
Yeah.
My
And
husband's
that's an easy
bringing me
one
in.
to get out of.
Yeah, he's like a limousine driver at heart, so I'm sure he'll get me there.
So he's
Yeah,
got everything planned.
he does.
Awesome. Well, Councilor Feckley, thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your holiday season.
Thank you, Natalie, and you as well.
Yeah. And so we'll be coming right back after the break with State Representative John Zlotnick from Gardner. Stay tuned. Welcome back. And now I'm joined with State Representative John Zlotnick, the senior member of the Tri-City delegation, the
The
youngest
dean.
member of the Tri-City delegation. So John is actually the same age as my younger brother. But I have been unbelievably thankful. You have been like a huge support system for me getting to get adjusted into this role, and knowing kind of what it's like in North Central Mass. Not everyone else understands what it's like up here. It's an amazing place to live, but people have different expectations maybe of their state representatives.
Certainly, and it is it is a bit different doing it at a younger age.
Right.
I
So-
had that little bit of experience before.
So I'm
you
wondering
came.
what motivated you. You were much younger than me when you first ran.
Yeah. So I was 21 when I started my first campaign, and kind of what had led to that was in high school I got involved in local politics a bit, and because of that I came to the attention of Bob Rice, who was the state rep from Gardner at that time, and he offered me an internship. Started working in his office, worked in his office starting right after high school until he retired from the legislature in 2010. And got a lot of experience, got a lot of exposure to that. Started to really enjoy it, and then so I graduated from college from UMass Lowell in 2012, and that was also the same year that I was campaigning. And I kind of had to make a choice between, my original plan was to go to law school, I got into the school I wanted to go to, but earlier in the year I kind of had to make a choice because it was clear that I couldn't do the campaign and go to law school. So I decided to put law school on hold, now kind of indefinitely. But I started campaigning, and then I got elected, and now I'm finishing my third term.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sorry you had to put law school on hold, but I think it was the right decision. Like, you have been able to do some really awesome things in the state legislature.
I think so. And one of the reasons I decided to run when I did, and I'm sure other people have had this experience in this area, was that I kind of had this, I don't want to say epiphany, maybe a realization's a better word, as I was going into my last year in college and trying to figure out what to do and just talking to other people and kind of reconnecting with some people back in Gardner, and realizing that almost very few people I had gone to high school with were either back in Gardner or had any intentions of going back. And I remember talking to actually he was my government teacher in high school, and he said, "John, yeah, that's been going on for like 20 years. That most of our graduating class leaves, and it's why the population is not gone up in 50 years, and
Right.
and all kind of the side effects that come with that." And so I looked at it and I thought, that's an issue, and that's something I wanted to try and address, create more economic opportunity for for people who grew up there to be able to stay there. Certainly, I think the community has a lot to offer. But I think it was missing that component, and that was really, I would say, the number one thing that really drove me to get involved and get involved so young. Like I said, I was 21 when I started the campaign.
Yeah.
I was 22 when I got elected, which at the time was interesting, to say the least. And I was the youngest member of the House when I got elected. My second term, I remained the youngest. Now I think I'm the third youngest in the House, as we've kind of as the body's kind of shifted younger. But certainly when I got in, it was kind of I'll say it was an anomaly that I was so young.
Yeah.
And kind of navigating that was a little interesting. I'll say a little challenging. One of the lines I would use with more senior reps is I would say, I was born after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and seeing their facial reactions to that was always interesting. And then realizing kind of later on that through conversation that the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and at the time the Chairman of Ways and Means had all been first elected to the House the year I was born. Just to give a little fun fact. But certainly.
Poor Senator Antonioni, whenever I see
Yeah.
him, he was like, "Oh yeah, I got elected in 1988." I was like, "That was the year I was born."
Yeah, I had that same conversation with the Speaker, and he took it well.
Yeah.
But I mean, since then, there's been a number of young people elected. Representative Goldstein Rose from Amherst. Rep Vargas now from Haverhill, yourself, and Dan Donahue, Dan Cullinane,
Dylan
Fernandez,
Juana Matias,
right,
China Tyler. Like, there's a lot of folks kind of 30 and under.
Right. The under 35 caucus is kind of grown by leaps and bounds the last few cycles, and that's certainly it's certainly exciting.
Are you seeing more folks moving back to Gardner now? Maybe as they're like closing in on 30, early 30s?
Well, that's one thing I've noticed, and one thing that I think always helps us is that it's affordable to live there. I always have people talk about what they could buy for a house and say the 495 belt or certainly the 128 belt versus what they can get in Gardner. I find a lot of people will move back maybe when they start having kids, things like that. But I think we still have some work to do in terms of kind of growing that that kind of base of opportunity that makes that that makes that practical for for people, younger people or people starting families.
Yeah, working on public transportation, making sure that we have access to the rest of the state from out here. When I graduated from college and moved back home, a lot of my friends were like, what are you doing? And then I went to law school and I commuted from Leominster back and forth. And I was like, I love this community. Like, I can't wait to start a family here. And it's encouraging seeing a lot more people move back now. I was like, so I was ahead of the trend.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's true. And I think it's also that, there has been a lot of economic growth in this whole region.
Absolutely.
In the last, 5 years especially, we've seen a number of existing companies expand, a number of new companies come in, and with that comes, the opportunity for people to, to be part of the community.
Yeah, in October I was doing a lot of research around Manufacturing Month. I do this monthly column in our local paper, and I had no idea, like, just how big it still was and how many jobs that we have in manufacturing, 1 in 4 in Leominster. And it's just really amazing to know it hasn't really kept up in other parts of the state, but that gives us a leg up to have really good paying jobs that are here locally.
Oh, exactly. And it's something that, I do find that people aren't as aware. And I think it's just, the nature of manufacturing has changed.
It looks a whole lot different than what we picture it to
Right,
be.
and I think it's no longer the case that, there's 3,000 people working at one factory, but even still in my district, there's probably at least 3,000 manufacturing jobs spread throughout the district. And it's just, again, it's not one factory in the center of town that everyone kind of knows.
Right.
Sometimes, I'll say, well, don't you know that's made here? And people will be surprised. Like, for example, Hershey Kiss, the little paper that says Hershey's on it, that's made in Gardner.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love all these new facts. Like, when we were doing research to find out, like, Earl Tupper of Tupperware was from Leominster, and I was like, what? How have I not been using that?
I always wondered why Tupperware was called Tupperware. That makes sense now.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I do my shtick when I meet people from other districts, and I say, like, oh, yeah, the birthplace of Johnny Appleseed. We invented the pink lawn flamingo. Now I get to talk about, like, we are the plastics capital, and then Tupperware.
The Tupperware town.
Yeah, so it's awesome to be able to work with folks from all over the place, but also to have such a strong North Central Mass delegation. I think we work really well together, and I'm excited to continue that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fortunate things for this area is that not just now but for really quite a while, the entire delegation has worked really well together, Republicans and Democrats. I think when the delegation gets together, I think sometimes it's kind of tough to tell maybe who's who's in which camp.
Yeah.
But I think that's certainly the way it should be. We all get together to work for the region.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're both on the House Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs and Technology, and I know you sit on Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure, and the Equifax scandal is something that kind of crosses both of those worlds. Can you talk a little bit about the bill and like what?
Yeah, so you'll remember that very early on in this session when we were talking about cybersecurity issues from a government point of view, or especially at the State House, and it was kind of eye-opening to be on that committee and start to get some of that information about how often the State House is cyber attacked, or state government in general, and how much work on a daily basis goes into keeping the system safe, keeping records secure. It really was I think very interesting and certainly eye-opening to know that there really is that much of a threat. That's really quite constant from some of the testimony that we've heard, and that kind of went right into the Equifax breach, which still is kind of rolling out. We're probably 140, 150 million people across the state have been affected by it, and so one of the other committees I sit on is Consumer Protection, and so the bill around I would say the bill. I actually won't say that it was in response to the Equifax breach, because Jen Benson, the rep from Lunenburg, a colleague of ours, had filed the bill well in advance of this. But the timing kind of worked out that the hearing happened to be around the time that the Equifax breach had occurred. So it certainly garnered a lot more attention than it maybe otherwise would have. But really the central issue there and what the bill was calling for is right now, if you're if you were a victim of the Equifax breach or any number of other breaches, one of the things people go to kind of safeguard themselves, especially in the short term, is to do a credit freeze. Well, that costs money to do that, because whether it's Equifax, TransUnion, or the other one.
Yeah.
They charge between $5 and $10 to freeze and unfreeze your credit. And I think it's not until you freeze your credit for any length of time that you'll realize how often you actually go in, you actually try and access that, because it's not just the big things that I think people think about accessing credit, whether it's a car loan or an auto loan or something like that, business loan. Certainly, if you're in business, you're accessing your credit all the time. But even if you're, opening up, let's say you move. First, you might get a credit check if you're renting. Then if you're getting, cable or internet or electricity setup, any of those things, they might check your credit. And so if you have a credit freeze on, you have to constantly take it on and off. I mean, the number can add up.
Really add up.
And obviously what you're trying to protect yourself against is either a major fraud being committed or identity theft.
Yeah, it was this last day of the criminal justice reform debate that I got, my phone started blowing up, and I got a lot of alerts that I was apparently shopping at Walmart and Best Buy in Texas, and was like, are you kidding? And it's just that thing that you're like, okay, now I have to call and I have to shut down my credit card. And
right. And I mean, it's a major hassle on top of the cost.
And it happens to folks all the time. How do we make sure that it's affordable for folks when their identity is being stolen?
So, the chairman of the committee, Taki Chan, the rep from Quincy, is committed to addressing the issue. I'll say that we're all kind of getting a crash course in in cybersecurity, quite frankly, and the way these records are stored, and trying to come up with a structure of how's the best way to deal with this, because obviously there's different things you can do to protect yourself if you were the victim of one of these breaches, which again seem to be more and more often. And we're trying to work through kind of, again, what's the best way to deal with that, and make sure that it's something that will also be sustainable long term.
Right. And so we got a few more minutes left. I talked to Gail a little bit about kind of what's going on with her for the holidays. Do you have any fun plans? Do you have any community stuff coming up that you're excited about?
Well, yes. We've already lit the tree in Gardner, so that's one tradition down, and also in other parts of my district. And then Mark Hawk, the mayor of Gardner, has a tradition where he calls it caroling with the mayor. And I've joined him. I think every year he's done it.
Are you guys good singers?
No. It's pretty bad.
Okay.
But there'll be a group of us that will go, business to business downtown and do a little caroling.
That's awesome.
Promote some small downtown businesses. That's coming up, and then I'm just looking forward to hopefully a little bit of quiet time with my family.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I love that you guys do that. We should definitely do some more caroling. I will admit I am not a good singer.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, it is a fun, it's maybe only like an hour or so. The first year, a lot of the businesses were surprised, when a group of 10 or 15 people came in and led by the mayor to start singing. But now that it's kind of become a little bit more of a tradition, it's gone a little bit better.
That's awesome. That's so great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and coming out to Leominster. It's always great to have you out here, and thank you for all of your support and help in my first year. I can't believe we're coming up on the end of my first year in office. It goes fast.
It goes by quick. I mean, I'm about to start my sixth year in the House, and looking back, it goes by very quick.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to do a little bit of a PSA and see if anyone got one of these mailers this week. I did a video on my social media, but I know not everyone, particularly those who maybe watch Access TV, have access to social media. So I just wanted to make sure folks know that if they did receive this mailer and are concerned, please give me a call. You can always reach me on my cell phone, 978-602-3772. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me directly. But the bill that is talked about in this flyer, I just want to be really clear, is something called the Safe Communities Act, and actually doesn't make Massachusetts a sanctuary state. It's not going to jeopardize federal funding. It doesn't limit our local law enforcement's ability to work with federal agencies. a few important things, and one of the reasons why I signed on to it and think that we should have a conversation about all of this is it'll make sure that Massachusetts doesn't participate in any kind of registry around a religious affiliation or nationality, like a Muslim registry. And also make sure that if our local public safety officials are trained to be immigration agents, that no state funds are used for that. That is a federal activity. If the federal government wants to expand their immigration forces, they absolutely can and should fund it with their own money. And that makes sure that our public safety dollars that are here locally from the state level can go that much further and can make sure that our public safety first responders have access to the funds that they need to protect our communities and make sure that we're safe here at home. But please, give me a call, stop into my office hours. They're Monday nights at the Leominster Public Library every time that it's open from 5:30 to 7. And then at the Leominster High School, we were just there from 7 to 8 this morning, every Friday morning that the Leominster High School is in session. So would love to see you, love to chat. And thank you to the folks who have already reached out to me. I'm slowly, it takes a little bit for me to fit in the calls in between meetings and events. But I'm going to get through to all of you hopefully by the end of next week. So thanks so much. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you in the new year.